Alright guys, today I'm going to be installing my Samsung tablet into my dash. This is my current screen that I use right now for my gauge arc gauges. It does a job really well, but as you can see, it's not the cleanest. I got some wires down here and it's a little flimsy. Overall not bad, but this new setup's going to be a lot better. It's going to be a much bigger screen, better display. Let me give y'all a shot at how it looks when it's turned on so you can see the before and after. Alright, so this is how it looks when it's on. You can see it's got a pretty nice display, but got coolant temperature, intake temperature, oil, fuel pressure. And then you have your flex fuel content down here at the bottom, air fuel ratio. Really nice gauge setup. I really like it a lot. I just want a cleaner install. Right now I'm using the Modify bracket, and it does have this little foam backing piece that goes behind it to make it a little bit more stable. But even with the foam, you can see it's still a little bit flimsy. Like I said, overall not a bad display at all, but I just want something cleaner. Alright, so this is going to be the new setup that I'm going to. This is made by Boost Engineering. It comes with a template to cut your dash, so that just fits right up against the dashboard. Trace it out and cut a perfect hole. The next part is the bezel and frame itself. So the frame will go into the dash to mount the tablet to. Alright, so there it is installed into the frame. Turn it on so you can see. Very nice 3D printed construction. The tablet fits in there nice and snug. You can see it doesn't fall out easily. So there's that. So let's go ahead and get started on the install. We're going to go ahead and take our bezel here and get it taped onto the dash in the proper location, draw our line and start cut. Alright, so first things first, we're just going to go ahead and remove the old screen from the dash. Then we're going to go ahead and remove the center console and the radio door. Alright guys, next step is going to be to disconnect your battery and remove the passenger side airbag. So I'll go ahead and loosen this up and pull that off. Alright, you want to give the battery just a couple minutes to fully drain so that you don't deploy your airbag. One thing you can do also to make sure that all the battery is depleted is just to press your brake pedal, and that should try to turn your lights on. You can try to honk your horn and make sure that battery is just completely discharged. All right, so once your battery is completely depleted, you're gonna wanna get this passenger side airbag out. And to do that, you're gonna remove this cover down here, just held in with clips. All right, sorry, I needed 2 hands to do that. You can see 6 clips that hold it into place. I needed 2 hands to get it off. It was pretty difficult to pull out, so just take your time. Be careful not to break any of them. And now you can see the bolts for the airbag. You got 1, 2, 3 10mm bolts that need to come out there, and this clip right here will also need to be removed. So you're gonna take this connector out. They're very easy to disconnect. You just grab this pin here, or the sides of this connector here, and just pull straight back. All right, so here's the airbag out of the car. You can see 1, 2, 3 10mm nuts. You disconnect that clip and just pop the airbag straight out of the dash. Very easy to do. Just make sure your battery's fully depleted before you do it. Also, side note, do not store the airbag face down like this. If it does happen to discharge, it'll blow the airbag straight up. So always store it face up like this, so if it does blow, it won't hurt you or anything or anybody around you or do any damage. All right, so back inside the car, you see we have the airbag out of the dash, and that will give you access to the back side where the tablet is going to be mounted. Now this air vent is going to have to be removed back here, and a little bit of trimming will have to be done, but we're going to start with cutting the main hole. The main hole is going to be cut right here, and we'll get started and I'll show y'all how that's going to be done. Alright, so I figured it'd probably be a good idea to go ahead and tape it to the dashboard. So I just got some masking tape to make sure it doesn't move while I'm trying to draw my line. But as you can see, the bracket fits very snug up against the dash. So your cut should be absolutely perfect. Make sure and take your time to adjust the bezel correctly so it fits the dashboard this perfectly. Once you have it to where it all fits very nice and snug, just go ahead and tape it into place and draw your line. Now what I did to get it into the proper location was just kind of moved it up and down until you feel it go into this notch. You can see there's a little line in the dashboard here. Once it sits into that notch, then you can just slide the bezel over this way until this part meets up with the dash. You'll see a gap here, so just keep sliding it over till it just barely touches. Then you know you're in the right position. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and take a Sharpie and I'm gonna draw my line all the way around here. I think the best thing would be to get like a silver Sharpie or something like that so you can really see your cut line, but I don't have one, so I'm just going to use red or black or whatever I have. So we'll get that line drawn onto the dash, get the bezel taken back off, and we will start making our cut. Alright, I've got my cut line drawn onto the dashboard. I just used a red Sharpie. So now that that's all done, we will go ahead and start making our cut. Now the first thing that you're going to want to do is cut the vinyl and foam out of the dash. So the dash has 3 layers. You can see here you have your vinyl top layer, you have foam, and then you have plastic. So we're gonna cut that foam and vinyl layer off first and expose that plastic underneath, so it'll make our cut a lot easier to make. So I'm just gonna take a box cutter and go around and cut that out first, peel that back, and then we will get to cutting on the main plastic. Alright, so I got that all cut out and cleaned up. I went ahead and just vacuumed up all my mess. It was surprisingly easy to do. I just used this plastic trim tool and just kind of scraped all the foam out once I made my cut. Now I do have to say, be extremely careful when going around these corners. Cut well with inside your line. It's very easy to slip. I started to get off just a tiny bit here, but luckily I corrected myself before I got out of my cut line. But just make sure you go very slow, cut well within this line, and you should be just fine. So now that we have that out, now we gotta cut this hard plastic trim piece out of the dash here. So we'll get started on that. I don't know what I'm going to use to cut this yet, but I'll figure it out and I'll let you know. Alright, let's get to it. Alright, so all my cuts are done. there's the bracket in the car. Now I did have to, see if I can get in here and show y'all. I did have to trim down a lot of this area back here. You have to actually cut the plastic behind the foam. So you'll still have your vinyl layer and your foam layer, but you have to trim the plastic back. So you have to be very careful not to actually cut the into the front of the dash. You can see I had to remove the plastic, but not the foam. So I just used I started to use like a drill with a sanding bit on it, but what I found easiest was just using a box cutter. So I just took the box cutter and just cut sideways this way, and that worked very well. So just trim the plastic back until the tablet clears, and the tablet will sit real nice and flush up against the dash. Now, right here, and right back here, I had to use that sanding disc and grind down those little tabs. It just makes everything fit in there a lot better, makes the tablet easier to get in and out of the car. So whenever you're going to do everything, just make sure that you get all that trimmed up back here. Let me see if I can get a better angle so you can see it. But that's how it looks from the back side. Now I trimmed this back here. I just cut that off, and then I just pulled this bracket out. You may or may not have to actually remove that, but it doesn't really do anything, so I just went ahead and pulled it off. The screw actually has to be removed from the inside, so to do that you literally just have to rip the screw through the plastic. Like I said, may or may not be necessary. I just went ahead and did it because I wanted to have plenty of room back here. I'm not planning on ever reversing this, so not a big deal for me. If you're afraid to cut into your dashboard, this probably isn't the way you want to go. But if you want a nice, clean looking install, whenever everything's all done, this is a fantastic option. Because it might look a little bit rough around the edges, but once that bezel's in there, it looks absolutely perfect. So, anyway, we'll get the everything permanently mounted, and I'll show you guys how it all fits up. Alright guys, that is it. You can see the fitment on this thing is absolutely perfect. No gaps, no loose trim. Can't see any of my cut lines. The tablet fits in there perfectly. Very nice and smooth. Overall, I just could not be happier with this unit. It looks fantastic. Works very, very well. And there you go. You got your Google homepage, and then you can have Google Maps. So, yep, there's YouTube, and it's my channel here. You can see you can use everything just like a normal tablet. But I ordered a ABS, and I am going to wire this in to where the sound coming from the tablet will be plugged into my my radio here. So any of the sound will actually be coming through the car's speakers. And I'm going to make a second video that's going to show all the wiring for that. The wiring for connecting audio to here, and then also the wiring to hardwire power so that anytime the vehicle's running, it'll charge your tablet, as well as connecting my gauge art setup to the tablet. So I bought a bunch of VGA to HDMI to micro USB adapters to be able to do all this. So I'll show you everything that you're going to need. The hard wiring kit that you need. You got to know that you have to convert from 12 volts down to a 5 volt for the tablet to charge. The tablet is, I believe, 3.6 volts, and so you have to use a 5 volt signal to charge that. You can't just use 12 volts from your car. But that's pretty much it for now. I am going to get some 2-part epoxy and actually go from the inside here and epoxy the tablet to the inside of the dash. Oh, not the tablet, but the bracket. I don't think it's gonna go anywhere. I mean, you can see it's very secure in there. So honestly, it's probably not needed. And I may or may not do it. This thing seems very sturdy in there. But if I start having issues, I'll put some epoxy on the inside. But as far as I'm concerned right now, it really doesn't need it. The tablet's nice and secure in there. It's not going to pop out while you're driving. Just make sure you cut your hole a little bit on the snug side so that bracket really fits in there tight, and you should be just fine. Anyway, guys, stay tuned for part 2, where I do the wiring and get all that squared away. I appreciate it, guys. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you on the next one. Peace, guys.